Hi, this is Joe Ebanks, and I'm just letting you all know that the Joe Ebanks Show is for paid programming. I accept all liability from the show. My guests will accept theirs and all callers, and I am not affiliated in any way with the Paramount Group of companies, its managers or employees. Welcome to the Joe Ebanks Radio Show right here on Vibe 98.9 FM. I have as a guest today Chris Saunders, the UDP candidate for the District of Bordentown. So I'm going to be bringing him in on a little bit later. Just want to touch briefly, before we get into the discussion with Chris, on the previous Auditor General, Dan Duguay. It's come to my attention that he is truly here on Island. And the questions we have to ask is, why is he here? Is he here as a visitor? Has he been brought in? Is he working? Is he being paid? And, you know, we have to be very, very mindful of how and who we bring in. And we need to ask the question, just how safe are women while this man is on Island? These are things that have to be addressed. I made it clear yesterday that this is not someone that we want around here. I told you all what we went through to get rid of him the last time. And this has to be addressed. So whoever has him on Island, if he's visiting, the Immigration Department needs to go and take a check. They need to call the previous board members of the Turtle Farm, Bosons Beach. They need to validate what I said yesterday. And this gentleman needs to be sent off for Island. Can't be allowed to roam these streets. We cannot bring these kinds of people into our country. So I want to make that perfectly clear that I'm not backing down from this. If I see him myself, I'm certainly going to go to the Immigration Department and file a complaint. I filed a complaint before. It's been done. This needs to be addressed, and this person needs to be removed from this island. He's not what the local media has portrayed him to be by far. And I gave you the names of the board members yesterday. They can deny or admit that, yes, what I said was the fact, but here's what I know. There's 117 Bosons Beach Turtle Farm employees who are fully aware of what transpired at the Bosons Beach. So I'm not short of witnesses as to what went on back then. So that needs to be addressed. There's one other thing I want to address from yesterday, and that I said that Miss Jennifer Dilbert had taken over from EP, when in fact she is the first FOI commissioner. So she didn't take over from him. She came in as the first one while he was going out as the complaints commissioner. So I made an error there. I want to correct that. But the cartoon did exist, and that makes the cartoon even more insulting to Caymanians because she wasn't even taken over from him. But the claim was, of course, that he had set this very high bar and he was this great person. And in fact, he's not really. In the past, these commissioners have looked, and I invite everyone to take a look at the history, take a look at all of the reports these guys have produced, and look at how many negative and damaging reports were produced on Caymanian civil servant leaders versus the number produced against foreign government leaders. And you're going to see the disparity for yourself, and you're going to see that what I'm saying here is factual, that this is a game to cause harm and prevent Caymanians from upward mobility as best as they can. And when they do manage to get to the top, to attack vigorously by using everything necessary to bring them down. As I said yesterday, as you can see by the newspaper article, Mrs. Dilbert's budget has been cut, so now she's unable to conduct investigations that are necessary. This commission, the FOI, is extremely, extremely important for democracy and good governance, but that budget has been cut. However, we're fully aware, based upon the contract renewal of David Beans, the RCIP commissioner, that he got an extra $15 million. So we know his budget was restored while hers was cut. And we know that there's a number of lawsuits there. We don't know if these funds are going to be used to settle some of those. We know that there's on the table a table with Governor Taylor, allegation by a senior police officer of corruption against Commissioner Beans. We know that there are charges there for him to investigate, and he's acknowledged receipt of those that he's taken to the anti-corruption unit on Ezra Miller, on the current Auditor General, as well as Louis Bouchard. We know all of this is there. He responded to me by email. Nothing is happening. We know that while I have been threatened, while the police are consistently harassing young people in North Side, that they did find time to find out who vandalized Ezra's sign, but we still can't find out who the person is. Now, These are clear indications that there is something going on here that is not kosher, not at all, in any way. But today, I want to start out with that. I want to give my guest an opportunity because I've assured him he's going to have an hour of the show. The next hour, I want to talk about the CUC monopoly. I'm going to talk about how we're going to address the high cost of CUC. And I want to give callers a chance to, once I've covered that, to be able to call in. Let's have a discussion about it. It is impossible for me to tell you how this is going to work, that everyone can understand. Not because people just can't understand, but because in some instances it's quite complex. And it's just the vast amount of experience I've had working at CUC, being the regulator in charge of the ERA, having gone through the bid process, having clear understanding of the license and what's wrong with that license that they've been awarded, that allows me the insight to be able to present this to you. So I want to talk about that after I get through with my guests, and how we're going to transition this company's ownership to the employees of CUC and why I want to take that position as well. So, Chris, welcome to the Joe Ebanks Show. I'm happy to have you here. I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, tell where you're running, where you want to be elected, and where you choose to run with the UDP.
Joey, good evening, and thanks very much. And good evening to everyone in Cayman who's listening. For those of you who have just finished your day's work and you're stuck in traffic, thanks very much for tuning in. As Joey mentioned before, I am the UDP candidate for the District of Bordentown. And one of the reasons why I'm actually running is that I'm actually not quite pleased with the path our country is on. And rather than, I guess, stick around, complain, and say all the negative things about Cayman, I've just decided to enter into the race and do something about it. Why I'm running with the UDP? Well, that's a very easy question to answer. It is the only party out there with a tangible track record, a successful track record of getting things done, achieving things. I've been a member of the UDP pretty much from the early years. I've, over the years, helped many UDP candidates to get elected. And while the party isn't perfect, there are some things that the party have done well. And for the things that the party have done well, I'm open, once elected, to continue to build on those stuff. And there are things over the time in government that the party has not done so well. And I guess since I will accept some responsibility for some of the people that I helped get elected, the job is just basically to try to go inside there and see what it is that we can get fixed. Yeah.
So I have a number.
Not a quitter.
Good. So I have a number of I have in fact 10 independent investigations that I want to table if I'm elected. If you're elected, Jonathan committed to seconding the motion. Certainly, I went through those. I've been talking about those repeatedly. If we're elected, would you second the motions for these independent investigations to occur against corruption?
Well, first of all, I mean, let us make something clear. Corruption in any shape, form, whatever, can't be tolerated. What it is that for right now for us, which is a priority, not to take anything, I guess, from your motions, but for us, the main things are jobs and the cost of living is what it is that we'll be focusing on. Those are the two things that are passionate to me, especially cost of living. One of the things that I've come to realize is that if you look at Cayman, if you look at our average per capita income per person, for what it is that some families are making in this country and barely living paycheck to paycheck, we need to deal with that. What we wanted to get, what was achieved in the first UDP administration, just so people are clear, is that there were certain quantitative issues that had to be dealt with where the government was concerned. Now, you take, for example, the government debt. I was part of the team that I guess worked with the government shortly after they got elected to pretty much go and raise some money to basically get some stuff done in the Cayman Islands. And one of the things that people must realize is that those loans that we have were predicated on our AA3 rating. And if we had run the risk of not making the tough decisions, of doing what needed to be done, increasing the fees that had to be increased, we ran the risk of basically losing our AA3 rating. And people need to understand that when government borrows money, government doesn't put up property. Government is basically borrowing against its credit risk, its risk rating, that kind of thing. And had we lost that, our current debt servicing costs would have actually gone up. So one of the things that we had to make the tough decisions to maintain that AA3 rating. So at a minimum, we didn't see where we had our interest payments going up from our bondholders coming in and basically saying that, guys, I lend you this money because you're AA3, you're no longer AA3. What's the story? So that's one of the things that we wanted to avoid. So we kind of got the quantitative issues that we needed for the economy. Tourism is up, mutual fund registration is up, insurance is up, company registration is up. So things are moving, but what we want to focus on now in the next UDP term is trying to improve the quality of life of our people.
How are we going to do that without first tackling corruption? Because when we have individuals who are capable of controlling work permit decisions in order to gain business, that's really what it boils down to, is selling work permits for business to business negotiations and work. Therefore, Caymanians at the bottom who would have gotten those jobs as they moved up and developed, you can never reach that far down with the policy, national policies being able to help, because we have to correct some of these issues that exist already.
There are definitely things in the system that needs to be fixed, and some just need to outright be dismantled. I mean, for short of a better word. The reality of it is, but I mean, going back to your point, even if Caymanians do get some of the jobs that we're pushing for, the reality of it is, for the salary that they're making, they're still having a problem in terms of living. No, and this is going back now to the issue that I want to talk about, quality of life. In the sense, if you're making $5,000-6,000 US a month, globally, that comes with a certain standard of living, that comes with a certain quality of life. And what we have in Cayman right now is people making $8,000, $9,000, even $10,000 US a month. And between their mortgage payment, their light bill, their food bill, their house insurance, their health insurance, they can't make ends meet. And what people need to realize is that unless we find a way to put more money back in people's pocket, what we're going to have now is people continuing to live paycheck to paycheck. And in doing so, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it basically means that you can never save enough to retire. So you're literally talking about people working till they're dead. Now, I'm supportive in terms of moving the retirement age to say 65, as we're pushing. But the reality of it is, and the true question to be asked is, if a person cannot retire after 40 years of working, why then do we think that they can retire after 45 years of working? Right. So we need to focus back on the quality of life, because if not, people will literally be working until they're dead, or if they reach a point where they can't work anymore, they basically become an issue for social services to deal with. So the main thing for us, and people need to realize, Joey, as we are sitting here, there are groups of people that meet every single day and think of ways in which to take money out of people's pocket. Think of ways to increase the share of wallet. You have businesses competing against business. What can they do to get you through their door? And once they get you through the door, what can they do to basically take the money out of your pocket?
Yeah, you gave some numbers. I have constituents in Northside who are making $800 a month. So they're having to live off of $800 a month. And they have, it is extremely, extremely hard. And we have a number of initiatives to change that we're going to propose and talk about more and more, and especially at my meeting tomorrow night. And I've brought those out in the public already. So how will your quality of life program be able to impact those and raise those up to the...
When I started this journey, I had two good friends of mine, both CPAs, both successful. They said to me, Chris, we will definitely support you if you can come up with a way in which you can save the average person $300 to $500 a month. And I remember leaving that meeting, coming home, and the first thing I actually saw on the counter was the CUC bill.
Yeah.
So I picked up that bill, looked at it, and I said, wait a minute. I look at the fuel factor. And I said, but this fuel factor is literally half the bill right there. And some months it's even more than the bill. So I said, okay, if I can cut that fuel factor in half, and bearing in mind it's roughly 50% of the bill, we can start reducing people light bill by at least 25%. So typical, being as an accountant, CPA, started doing research. And what I realized in the Bahamas, for example, that they actually regulate the margins on fuel. Now, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If someone is doing something and they're doing it well, then from that standpoint, let us look at it, let us explore it, and let us see how we can bring something like that here. To put things in context, when a ship pulls up in Bahamas to and drops off the fuel to when it reaches the pump, only 70 cents CI is added on it for gas and 43 cents for diesel. In Cayman, it's roughly $2.80 for gas and roughly $2.40 for diesel. Now, granted that the government takes 75 cents off it, even if we were to take the government duty off, it is still 3 times as much. Bahamas is almost 5 times the population of Cayman. Yet, from what I understand, the fuel companies here actually make 3 times the profit that they do in Bahamas. And in other countries, I mean, even I think Honduras, I believe it was like 5 cents US is the margin that is basically regulated on it. So this is what it is that we need to start look at. This is 2013, and all we pretty much have is just a petroleum inspectorate. In every country around the world, fuel, energy is of national security, is of national importance, and we have allowed this to go on unregulated. You look at Cayman Brac, the duty in Cayman Brac is actually less than Grand Cayman, yet a gallon of gas in Cayman Brac actually costs more than it does in Grand Cayman. Yep. And here's a kicker. Milk is duty-free, yet a gallon of milk even costs more than a gallon of gas. Yep. So it is nothing to do about the government duty. And people have these tendencies of coming up, trying to create a boogeyman, because when people can't get you to vote for them, they try to find ways to get you to vote against someone else. Right. And that has been the name of the game. Ironically, this is 2013. In 1513, a guy by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli started his writings, which became part of the book, The Prince. For 500 years, the whole concept of running the politics of fear have dominated our landscape, where you can either run to give your people hope, or you can run based on fear. Like you frighten them to the polls. I mean, we have seen it over and over. If you vote for this one, that's going to happen to you. If you vote for that one, this is going to happen to you. That is the kind of politics that most people run. And people run that kind of politics when they lack solutions. Well, the reality of it is, we need people who can understand problems. We need people who can analyze problems. And more importantly, then we need people who can find solutions. We have a very good team that we have assembled this time around in the UDP. And I can tell you, I am proud. I mean, some days when we were sitting back, even putting together a manifesto, I can tell you, people left that room upset. I mean, people left vexed. But the reality of it is, democracy itself is built on debate, where two people start from an opposing view, and through debate and everything, they come to consensus, and they find some agreement in which they can meet in the middle. And that is more of what it is that we need in this country.
Well, what if you're elected and the PPM gets the majority? We've had several candidates say they're not going to work with the UDP if elected. I mean, this is becoming a chorus line now by at least 3. They're singing it every day. What if you're elected, but the PPM and the independents, for example, and I'm not referring to C4C as an independent, they're the other part, but the PPM and the independents were elected, would you work with them?
First of all, the UDP itself, the motto is for all the people.
Right.
And if we're not here to question the results of how people vote, if at the end of the day they came in and people decide, you know what, we're going to give the PPM the majority, we will do what we can do to work with it. Because at the end of the day, if a government fails, we all fail.
Yes.
And you look at the behavior in terms of the UDP while in opposition, they were far more responsible as an opposition than the current, while they were basically in government. Yeah. Because what you find is a lot of hate, a lot of divisiveness, and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't get the country well. McKeever Bush got up, even from before the financial crisis started, to basically say to the government, listen, you're spending too much, you need to slow down. This is what is coming on the horizon. People can say what they want to say about Mark, but I can tell you, I have not found a person, well, outside myself and very few others, that read as much as he does. Right. He read Time, he read Economist, he read books that basically say, you know what, this is coming. And you can start guessing it. Yes. But typical, I mean, he made a suggestion, and what he was told, I think he was told it will be some cold day in hell or something before this is done. Right. One response to the building a school is, only God can stop. I mean, that's arrogance.
Yes.
And I mean, and that is not the kind of politics that we want. What we want to do in Bordentown, I mean...
And if I could say, it's arrogant to say before the election that when I'm elected, if they're elected, I'm not working with them.
Listen.
That in itself is arrogant because you haven't been elected yet.
You know, one of the things that we need to work on in this country is humility and a sense of humbleness. And this is why for every single meeting that I have when I close off, I quote 2 Chronicles 7 verse 14, which basically says, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. This is what we need more of in Cayman. We need a little bit more humility and a little bit more humbleness. Now, if they don't want to work with us, we can't force anyone to work with us. But what I can say is that myself and any member of the UDP would work with anyone for the betterment of this country. This is not about egos. This is about trying to make other people's life better. This is about trying to improve people's quality of life, and trying to build today a better Cayman for my 3 kids and every other kids for tomorrow. I look at Bata Banu, for example. I was looking at the article in which you're talking about the behavior of the kids and all that. We have an event that was created by Caymanians that bring our young people together. If there are issues to be improved, let's work on those issues to improve. But you just outright get up and just beat up on things that young people are doing. And a lot of people pick on young people for the simple fact that if you look globally, their voter registration is pretty much low around the world and that kind of stuff. So it's easier to people to go and pander to the church group or pander to the religious right and all that kind of stuff, and just find something to complain about. But rather than, you have found a medium that has assembled this much young people together, let's see what positiveness we can get out of it, rather than try to beat it up. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to fix. I am a religious person. I grew up going to a lot of church. I still go to church a lot. With my kids especially, and more than ever, I want to make sure my kids have the right foundation and everything. What people need to realize, even the concept of separation of church and state wasn't there to protect religious people from politicians, but was created to protect politicians from religious people. We, first and foremost, everyone that's running is running to be legislators. You can't legislate principles. You can't legislate moralities. You can't legislate values. So when people get up and trying to bring all of this in a political process as if they can do something about it, they can't. There are certain social issues that needs to be addressed. And this is what it is that we need to get to in this country. But then you do have some people, then you do have some people that spend too much time even attack the institution of our churches. In our society, they also have a role to play. But some politicians like to go pander to that group as if doing that's a lot of votes there and all that kind of stuff. We just need to sit down, see what's best for this country, and trying to work on that.
Yeah, but we can talk about all these things that are occurring, but there's a reason why a lot of this is occurring. It leads back, and this has been proven in Germany. There is a massive movement ongoing now across Europe. Recently, in the last couple of months, there was an attempt to bail out one of the smaller islands by the European Union, and the German Chancellor made it clear that she would not commit European Union funds to bail out the banks because 50% of the funds in there were owned and controlled by Russian mafia. And she wasn't prepared to bail out banks that were controlled and save accounts for banks that were controlled by the mob. So there is a level of massive movement against corruption that is going on right now across Europe, across many areas. And it's began. The economy itself and the global economic conditions that we currently live in has caused this. The Wall Street issues, the breaking of empires and dictatorships throughout the Asia. These things are coming, and people are rising up and speaking out, and they're not stopping at just having democracy. They want corruption completely removed. They want fairness, and they want equity across each country and across the social structures and economic structures within their society. So for us to get to some of those social issues, to understanding and respect for church and state, separation of church and state, and understanding all of that, we have to tackle what is existing that is the true white elephant in the room that has to be removed. The
thing about it is, Joey, and let's start with the premise of what is the role of government in society. You have the government has this role, the citizen has this role, the NGOs and many other entities have their different role to play. Ultimately, the role of government is either to provide a service or to ensure that the service is provided via regulation or everything else. going back to the banking system, many people get up and they look at what happened in terms of the banks. One of the first casualties of the financial crisis before Lehman Brothers and everything else hit was the country of Iceland. Now, Iceland literally went bankrupt. Now, if you look at what had happened in Iceland, Iceland was 11 times the GDP of the country. The banks in Iceland lent 11 times the GDP of their country. The United Kingdom is 3 times lent the GDP of their country. I think the United States may have been 7 times lent the GDP of their country. Whereas in Cayman, we're actually about, my memory serves me right, we're probably about, I think, less than 50% lent the GDP of our country.
Agreed.
So there's some level of, I guess, regulation. What my concern is, and people can go to see my website, cimoney.com.ky, and look at the statistics, and what you'll realize, factoring the runoffs and everything. Even last year, for example, business people, loans to businesses in this country, they literally repaid roughly around, I would say around 200 million US worth of loans were repaid. On top of that, if you look at loans to consumers, they actually borrowed 200 million. In the space of 12 months on the small island, we're now starting to carry a lot of debt. And if you look at what it is that people are borrowing for, like in terms of credit cards, people are using credit cards more to buy food and all that kind of stuff. The minute you're buying food on credit, you have a problem. And this goes back to the issue. One number I want to touch on. If you look at government statistics, look at government expenditure line. In the subsidy line, June 30th, 2005, at the end of that financial year, government was spending $60 million a year in the subsidy line. June 30th, 2012, that number increased to $140 million. That's $80 million increase in a 7-year period, which is more than $11 million per year. Buried inside that line, you got Cineco, you got Turtle Farm, you got Cayman Areas, you got social services. Now, that in itself is a big growth. And if we continue growing at this 11 million per year on that line alone, we're not even looking at something else. In 10 years, that's a $110 million problem. What kind of population, what kind of country, what kind of program, what it is that we would expect. And the main thing that we are trying to get in this election is, where do we want the vision for this country? Where do we see this country in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? 10 years ago, we had 507 bank licenses, thereabouts, at the end of 2001. At the end of 2012, we're down to like 226 bank licenses. So everyone is sitting down, they're building this country based on banking, yet our banking licenses are on the decrease.
Right.
So the question is then, what are we then preparing our kids for? Mutual funds are up. How many people do we have prepared now to work with mutual funds, NAV, and all that kind of stuff?
But if based upon the statistics that you just rolled out, the one key thing is that I picked up in there, businesses are doing well and performing, paying back debt, while consumers, the people, are going deeper and deeper in debt. Isn't that the issue here that we're dealing with? Because if the consumer is unable to save, to live, if the consumer begins to live on debt, then surely what government's role is not so much to provide the service or see that it's provided, but to ensure fairness is there that allows the consumer fairness as well. And we can go back to CUC, we can go back to the field.
And this is the point in which we're getting back to when I opened up by saying we need to focus on improving the quality of life for people. But more importantly, and I'm going to be straight up, there are some very greedy people out there.
Yes.
And we need to deal with them.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to make it appear as if though we're trying to promote class warfare or something like that. No. But the reality of it is, just as though you have people sitting down thinking of ways to take money out of your pocket, Cayman people need some people that will get together and think of ways to keep money inside their pockets. And that is what the focus of the UDP is in this campaign. Between house insurance alone and fuel, once we deal with that the way in which we intend to, that should be significant savings for our people. Now, the most important thing is that once we do get the money back for them, is to also ensure, and this is why we're bringing consumer protection as a keystone, because the minute you put the money back in, someone is going to start thinking of ways. We need to find ways in which to make sure that they keep that money in their pocket. And we have a few initiatives that we also have planned in terms of that regard.
Yeah, but well, based on my interaction with the grassroots people, we have people who have not had meat in their diet for 6 to 9 months. We have residents, young people working, looking jobs, actively seeking employment, who have not had electricity and running water in 9 months. So there is no fairness there. We have a serious problem in this country and how we're going to shift some of this wealth and create opportunities from. And I use the term shift wealth, but in actual fact, what I'm saying is we got to create some new opportunities for these people that are aggressively seeking employment, want to excel, want to live better, to be able to do that. Because we spent the last 50 years writing policies to ensure that the financial industry was growing, but we left the people behind. Now we need to start writing social policies to ensure that people, and education reform and motivation and hope and everything else that goes into that package to ensure that the people are getting an opportunity to advance. I spent some time talking to some young people with some brilliant ideas, but there isn't anywhere for them to go and get someone that is going to sit down and spend the time helping them. And there is no policy that is going to allow them to be able to take advantage of their idea. What we have a lot of in this country is Caymanians who have ideas. They go in search of help. They go to the bank turns them down. They go to the government bank, CIDB, they never have money. For Caymanians, the same, they never have money. It's always broke. And then they go to a businessman, they tell him an idea, and the businessman takes the idea, moves it forward, and they lose out.
I can tell you right now, Joey, one of the things that we have made clear throughout this campaign is that the days of a representative democracy is pretty much over. Through technology, whether it be Facebook, email, Twitter, text message, this is no time for participative democracy.
Yes.
I have a district of 4,550 voters and a population of 11,000 and growing. There is no way, and we're being realistic, for 4 people, and if you want to slice it up, 1 man, 1 voter or whatever, to control or to communicate or to work with that much people, and then also have a job of maybe being a government minister or somebody else. What we need now is a time for participative democracy. Government no longer need to guess what the people want. Technology have allowed the government to ask the people what they want. And that is what it is that we're looking to focus on this time around. Now, going back to the young people, this is why it is important for them also to get engaged in the process, but at the same time also for us to find the ways in which to engage them. Now, I've been proactive for the simple fact that by nature of being a CPA, as to quote Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So someone can tell me something, but Chris has to go out and verify. That's just my nature. I can take somebody's opinion, because one thing I've learned in this business, many people are entitled to their own opinions. What they're not entitled to is their own facts. And people need to kind of have a level of intellectual curiosity where they go out, they check the facts for themselves, and not just listen to every single thing that is printed.
I don't understand. How does that relate to the young people, the person 9 months without electricity and water because I went and verified that, the person trying to get a business?
Sorry. The main thing, we have one of the best problems in the world. We have overemployment. We have more jobs than we do Caymanians. What we do need is enforcement of the laws. And what we also need in this country is a minimum wage. Because the reality of it is, Joey, you got people, the jobs are available for Cayman. A couple of weeks back, I saw one company.
Though. The jobs are not available for Caymanians.
I see one company advertising for a CPA paying between $6 to $8 per hour. That's what they're offering a CPA. Come on now, we got to be realistic. And I wish to God and I hope to God that the immigration board turned that job down. For the simple fact that if you were to look at the requirements of that job, the first question is, does this job realistically need a CPA to do it? Looking at the job description, I can tell you right now, the answer is no. But we could have gotten a nice bookkeeping student or a nice school leaver coming out with a basic understanding of bookkeeper, working with somebody properly to do that kind of job. So that is the issue that we have. We do have $3, $4, $5 an hour type job that should be paying more, but people are just taking advantage. You do have unscrupulous employers that are just taking advantage of the system.
Many, and that's why
why enforcement It's a serious issue that we need to get to know.
But there is no
Hold on.
enforcement possibility.
No, this is
as
where
long
your corruption.
Yes.
No, this is where now
Okay.
the corrupt behavior comes in now. And what I can say, and when it comes on with Teresa myself in Barton Town, for what it is that we have raised in terms of the bulk of our campaign has been out of our pockets.
Right.
So the good news is, if we are successful and are elected, the only people that we should be technical or owe anything to are the people who voted for us.
Right.
No special interest, none of that kind of stuff. What we do need in this country, the truth be told, is that we have a tendency of pushing a lot of things under the rug. The minute we just need one public execution of somebody going to jail for some serious stuff, when people understand how serious this is. And I mean, there is some issue inside this country, but I'm not going to say that there's wholesale, but there are a few people with their own special interests that find their own way to get what it is that they want. I used to be on the business staff and plan board. When we turn on permits, I will tell you this, Joey, it was not foreigners that called me up about trying to reverse my mind or something else. It was some quote-unquote prominent Caymanians
Right.
who come like, boy, you know, Chris and this and that. That's why Chris don't do cocktail parties.
Right.
Chris is a simple man. Chris like a good game of dominoes at the street corner. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? So there are some issues, but until we start breaking into that, then
Yes.
we're going to start seeing issues.
And equity. Then we get equity, because now we're giving opportunities for others. Because when you turn down that work permit, that Caymanian who was down below gets bumped up. That's what we want. We want that immigration policy enforcement, as you mentioned, to be able to create opportunities for Caymanians. And this is what's missing. First, the education system to date has failed us. So it hasn't produced the masses we should have gotten. Statistically, 20% of our students are educated, 50% are functionally illiterate, and the other 30-40% are completely illiterate. And this came out years ago when you had the school inspectorate. They produced these statistics. We can go and run it again today, and we're still seeing it. When you break out the 20% that was being educated, that were achieving, and when I say educated, I don't mean achieving the A's and the B's. I mean the students that were truly getting the knowledge and were able to use it, to apply it. We found that majority of them were coming from a parent home structure where the parents were involved, totally committed to that child's development. So that system needs to change, because that system has produced and given us. We mass produce labor for the banking industry.
Let's put things in context. First of all, what is the education by itself does not make you employable. Education makes you trainable, and being trainable is what makes you employable. I want to emphasize that word, trainable. If you look at what we have done here in the Cayman Islands, we have basically gone from the time, the island that time forgot, to the 5th largest offshore financial center in the world. Mm-hmm. Understand, our country nor our industries, whether it be banking or tourism, were not built primarily by educated Caymanians. It was built by Caymanians that were smart, visionary, and trainable. That's the first thing. What has happened over the years is that politicians have become too much in the education system. And one of the things that we're open to do in the next UDP government is to basically take politics out. When I hear a minister get up and taking credit for passes as if you're running an after-school program, as if you're in the classroom teaching, as if you're setting homework for kids, it is ridiculous. What we need is educators, running educators, and the minister's job is here to find the resources to get it done. No.
Which is really all they do anyhow.
If you look at Barbados have one of the highest literacy rate in the world. But rather than even go to Barbados, I want to go someplace. I want to go right next door to Cayman Brac. Look at Cayman Brac. If my memory serves me right, inside their entire education system, one work permit holder, which I believe may be the headmaster. Everybody else over there are local Caymanian teachers. Right. What we have basically done is that we have replaced our Caribbean/Caymanian teachers with people from a different culture, different something else. We have imported, excuse my language, a piss poor process into our own country, because what we had before, look at what our classrooms that people at a grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 level in this country were able to achieve compared to people coming out now not being able to achieve it. Something is wrong. So the question is, where in our history did we make that right turn? No, I know the answer, but the reality of it is, I'll tell most people, go back. You look in the 90s, that's when this thing started. When we started this crap of trying to get out our own people and started bringing in people from the UK. I gotta be honest with you, that's the kind of stuff that we need to fix inside this country. We need to have an open, honest conversation, because there are some people among us, whether we like to accept it or not, or admit it or not, have a colonialist mentality. And that is what we need to fix in this country.
Well, I think when we look at the joblessness and the development of our people, the masses, and the Caymanians are coming out of school, high school, we have those who are knowledgeable, those who can learn quickly and develop. And let's face it, I mean, if we even go back further, this entire country's financial industry was built upon the seamen. We had a point in time when this country's total government budget, annual budget, was $17,000, and the seamen was sending home somewhere in the region of $2 million US. And they brought in the banks, and it was all built from, and then suddenly we depleted. We moved the women out of the homes, they went into the banks with the imported labor, and we began to develop this financial industry. And so the seamen left, shipped money home, and we grew it. But we didn't develop our people fast enough. And we have today aging bankers, Caymanians, who know banking inside and out. That's why one of the reasons why I'm proposing and the whole education reform is that we have to take experience and place a value to it. We can't just say a person has been in the banking industry, for example, for 5 years and doesn't have a degree, therefore they can't move up. We need to qualify that as an associate's degree. We need to say this has a value, here's the value. Because the same 5-year veteran is teaching and training your imported labor that they have to report to. So you're saying that this person isn't qualified, but you're asking this person to teach the person you imported. Therefore, that's unfair. That's part of the unfairness that drives out hope within our own people. And that person comes in, they might stay for 6 years, 7 years, they might leave after a while, and we still have that person stuck there. And when you take away that kind of hope for upward mobility, then you begin to create and more social problems that stem from that.
The thing is, Joey, and I'm kind of glad you touched on that subject. I'm going to use myself as an example, and this is one of the reasons why I think I bring something different to the table compared to even some of the other candidates that are that are running. I'm almost 6 years in banking. I'm a chief financial officer for a Class A retail bank. Prior to holding that position, the only banking experience I had was standing in a line waiting on someone to say next. So the question is this, and this is one of the reasons when people come and say, you know, I hear nobody because they have no experience. It comes back to the point of trainability, which my bank, a global bank, was able to take me, who prior to that I had 6 years in telecoms, senior management in telecoms, and say, you know what, we're going to transition you straight to banking. When I sit down and I see Caymanians being turned down from jobs for being a waitress, for the simple fact of saying that this person has no experience, that's an entry-level job. What experience do you need for an entry-level job? Yet, a senior manager inside a bank can go into a very senior position with no experience. But yet, that can't work for other positions. Garbage. And this is when it comes back to us saying enforcement and to stop short of a public execution of someone for this criminality that they're basically bringing inside this country.
Say the word, corruption. Say it, Chris. Say it. I know you want to say it. Don't say criminality. Say corruption.
But isn't corruption also a criminal act?
It is. That's why we have to send a couple of them to jail.
So that's pretty much where we are. So, okay. So I mean, if you go back now, last weekend, Teresa and I were going through, I think it was I'm trying to remember which year it was in Boddentown. But we met a guy. He's basically a contractor. When we saw the work that this man did in his house, I mean, I can tell you I was in awe. I mean, the man did good work. So, of course, naturally I had to ask the man, how were you able to do this? He was one of them that came out through that school where you had the the apprenticeship school
Right.
there in the library,
Right.
where they learn all of this skills. You had Stanley Hill and those guys sitting
Yes.
down, teaching guys certain skill and everything else. And pretty much, when you look at what this man has learned, and this is one of the reasons why the National Apprenticeship Program is one of the cornerstone of what we want.
Right.
We have hundreds of kids coming to school each year that can't find jobs.
Yeah.
Part of that program is for basically put them out. People say they need training, they need experience. Well, guess what? We'll put them in the public, in the private sector. If they want to study IT, we call someone up and say, listen, we have this young man here. Put him in that program. We pay them a monthly stipend. And guess what? Going back now to the old work permit system, this is why we want to take the work permit system out of the old immigration department, move it over to labor.
Right.
You look at
Agreed.
that young man now who's working, all we ask of the employers, make sure he comes to work on time, you teach him something,
Right.
and he does what he has to do like a normal employee. You're looking at that person and says, you know what, if for 6 months, they're in that program, they're doing well, you're getting your monthly reports and everything, and they're doing well. You can then go through your catalog of permits
Right.
that's coming up, saying, you know what, I have this permit coming up for renewal in 5-6 months. You have someone take out the phone, call the employer and say, listen, this young guy is doing here, this is where he's employed. You can call this person for a reference,
Right.
but don't even bother come for a renewal. This young man is now doing his job
Yeah.
based on the requirements that you have just previously asked.
Yeah.
And that's what we need more of in this country.
We have a call on the line. Let's go straight to the phone lines. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your call.
Where is it?
Sorry, you called the 5 show, Joey Ebanks radio show?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm expecting Mars to be on now.
No, sorry. Okay, bye. Yeah, so you would have that program, and I totally agree with shifting it, immigration to the authority. We need to do that. Immigration is supposed to be border control.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we also realistically need to bring in a minimum wage inside this country.
Yeah.
Because what people are basically paying, because I listened to one Georgetown candidate the other day talk about some friend of him that's getting paid $3 an hour, that kind of stuff, justifying the reason why they're paying that kind of rate, mind you. And between tips and this and that, they make $40,000, $50,000 a year. Well, guess what? When that young Caymanian or that Caymanian needs a job letter to go to the bank and get the loan, that job letter is not going to include their tips.
Right.
That job letter is only going to say the hourly rate, which will not allow them to qualify to basically get something to be part of the Caymanian dream.
Yeah.
So when I hear people sitting down and justifying that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
I tell you what we're going to do. We are going to make it very expensive for people to not hire Caymanians in this country.
Right.
You have some industries that will accept that there is a shortage of Caymanians,
Yes.
and you have to be a little bit more flexible. But where there are Caymanians available, it will become expensive for you to basically hire a foreigner over an expat. I mean, over a Caymanian. And that's what we need to get
That's
to.
where we need to get to.
Until you start squeezing people bottom line, then they'll
Yeah.
understand you mean business.
Yes, yeah, the penalties have to be there. And to help with the development and the upward mobility of Caymanians. It has to be in there to allow that to happen. But we're going to, in fact, we're heading up to the hour. I know you guys, we want to take a short break. We'll just take a short break with you brought a song, the UDP song.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll just play that, come back, and continue the conversation, then you can wrap up, yeah?
The better way forward.
Every pussy come jump around, everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. Every pussy come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. West Bay, no retreat, no surrender. No drunk driving pretender. UDP is on the move. GT, let's get together. Don't beat the female gender. UDP is on the move. BT, let's make life sweeter. The future will be better. UDP is on the move. Northside, East End, we hear you. If you give us a chance to, UDP is on the move. Every pussy come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. Let me hear you. UDP is on the move. Every pussy come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP UDP is on the move. A lower cost of living, solutions to believe in. UDP is on the move. Roll out apprentice program, more jobs for the Caymanian. UDP is on the move. BT, Teresa and Chris, vote 8 and 9 you can't miss. UDP is on the move. They have so much to offer, your sister and your brother. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. Massive and crew, what you say, we'll take all foreign West Bay. UDP is on the move. Two Bush, one Hewitt and the captain, vote 12, 3, 4 and 7. UDP is on the move. Give them 6 love in GT with Mike, Ilio and Wally. UDP is on the move. For John, Real and Reynard, a better way forward. UDP is on the move. Everybody come jump around. Every posse come jump around. Let me hear you. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. Let me hear you. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. Let me hear you. UDP is on the move. Every posse come jump around, yeah. Everybody come jump around. UDP is on the move.
Nothing is off the table. It's the Joey Ebanks Show on Vibe FM.
Welcome back to the Joey Ebanks Radio Show, ladies and gentlemen. So, Chris, that's a great song. I loved it. Tell us a little bit about it. That was done all locally, all local talent. I understand.
I'm not sure if I can admit this, but I was actually sitting in church one Sunday, and the word just kind of came to me. I just kind of pulled out my phone, and I started just going to the lyrics. And that same night, we had a meeting, a little family function down at Mike Adams' house. And I ran into Bunny Miles. You know, Bunny Miles is a musician.
Right.
Long-serving Cayman, a musician. A lot of talent. Showed it to Bunny. And he said, Chris, my band can do this for you. Okay. So sent it to him. He told me who to send it to, forwarded it to the guy. And next thing I know, I'm getting back a demo. What's his name from My Tide? Shane. Right. From My Tide. You had Perry Smith, the late Troy Smith's brother. Right. I mean, a lot of talent. I mean, yes. Everything was done pretty much right here in Cayman. Yes. And then everyone just came up with suggestions. Like, you get your first demo, you send it out. Right. People come back like, okay, Chris, let's try this, let's try that. You know what I mean? And it was just unbelievable. Yeah. In the space of like 2 weeks from thought to finish, just local. I tell you one thing, we have a lot of talent on this. Last year when we went to that Thanksgiving concert in Pedro, I mean, that in itself should have been the continuation of the Jazz Festival. Yes. When we couldn't afford to bring in the big, like a big overseas artist, just to showcase Caymanian talent. And that's one of the things that we would love to focus on in the next UDP administration. Yeah. Good. In the sense of highlighting our people talent.
Yeah. And it has to be done. It has to be done. I mean, we have to portray the artists in this country because it shows that we're maturing as a society when we accept and appreciate what they can do.
One disc that I have at home that I always keep in my changer is Tabia's album. Now, when you listen to that very first song on it, African Children, my friends, even when they visit from overseas and I play that song, or even some Jamaicans, when they come in and you play that song and you ask them, guess who that is? You're Third World, you're Ziggy Marley, you're this and that. And I'm like, no, that's Tabia. Yeah. Which surprisingly, actually, I think is Arabic for talent. Yeah. So, I mean, we have a lot of talent here, Joey. Yeah.
And all those youngsters are in church now. they're playing in groups and churches, and
Yeah.
they're no longer together, but they're part of different churches and organizations.
Well, prior to moving to Northwood back in '83,
Yeah.
I grew up North Sound Road pretty much with those
Yes,
guys.
that's right.
We used to play football
Yes,
by the
yeah.
the cement factory. And the Campbell boys and
Yes.
everybody, Steve McDermott, a lot of talent.
That's right.
A lot of
That's
talent.
A lot of talent, and we have some great rappers now popping up.
The guys from the Is,
Yes,
they did one
yes.
song for the party too, which was really, really, really phenomenal.
Yeah. So we have some great talent. So Chris, we're coming up an hour. I want to give you a chance to wrap up. Was there something else you want to touch on before you wrapped up, and then we can take a much longer break, Madam Producer?
Joey, I just want to say thanks very much for this opportunity, and thanks for everyone who was listening. What I would ask most people to do is, we're not about practicing tribal politics in this country.
Right.
Because regardless of the election outcome, come the 23rd, we're still going to be friends, we're still going to be family, and we're all going to be Caymanians. What I would ask everyone is to take a look at each manifesto for each team.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what it is that the UDP is looking to do. Look at the track record of who has been able to get the most done with the best results, and then just pretty much make a sound decision. Yeah. We have nothing bad to say about anybody. There are some good people running in this race. There are some good people on the PPM ticket. There are some good people on the C4C ticket. And there's some good independents in the race. What it is that we need to do is run an election where people can understand that it is good to want to be involved with public service. In essence, we're applying for a job to uplift Caymanians, to build Caymanians. But yet, to get this job, we want to tear other Caymanians down. That in itself is a walking contradiction. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people inside this race with a lot of knowledge. And what I will say to them is that, listen, before people care how much you know, people also need to know how much you care.
Yeah.
We need to find a way in which we can get more people involved. It is a small island, but at the end of the day, the role of government is still the same in terms of the expectations than any other country around the world. Yeah. Is that it still has the same basic service that it has to provide. And this is all we can ask the Caymanian people to do. Look at everybody's track record, look at their qualification, look at their tenacity to get things done, what it is they bring to the table, and then just make a sound judgment. And whatever the decision is, I can assure you that myself and every other member of the UDP will be fine with that decision, because at the end of the day, it's the people's choice, it's the people's voice, and the people would have spoken.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Joey, and also, I didn't get your name of your producer.
Madam Producer.
But thank you very much, and for everyone who took the time out to listen, I want to say thank you very much, God bless, and have a good day.
All right, thank you for joining us, Chris, and we're going to take a break. I don't want to be the premier. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Caymanian, Jamaican, English, American, Filipino, black men, white men, yellow men, all men. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this country, there is room for all of us, and the economy is strong enough to provide for all of us. Our way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost our way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded this country with hate, has sucked us into the misery and heartache. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. A financial industry that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than a financial industry, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will become more violent, harder, and all will be lost. The web, radio, and the social media has brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in man, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Through Facebook, my words can reach millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators will die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. RCIP, don't give yourself to brutes, men who despise you and enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel. who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as fodder. Don't give yourself to these unnatural men, machine men, with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men and women. You have a love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. Political candidates, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. Fight to liberate the Caymanian people from economic despair. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke, it's written, the kingdom of God is within man. Not one man, nor a group of men, but in all men. Not Taylor, in you. You, the people, have the power. The power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. So in the name of democracy, let's use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new Cayman, a decent Cayman, that will give people a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill their promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free this country, to do away with economic barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a country of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Caymanians, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. Many will have heard by now that His Excellency the Governor has had his contract cut short and is being sent to Mexico. For the first time in our history, a governor is leaving for a new post rather than retirement. I do hope that England will send us a governess and will bring an end to the old boys club in this country. Many will recall my statements on the Joey Ebanks radio show, my intentions to see this a reality before his initial contract expiration date. I have not yet finished my journey. I am still committed to ensuring our independent investigations become a reality once elected. It is from the floor of Parliament that the rich and powerful corrupt elite must be defeated. Without parliamentary support and the authority vested there, ensuring justice and the rule of law prevails is difficult, if not impossible, against those who have abused their power and authority. These independent investigations are as follows. 1. The DECO bid on the 36 megawatt electrical generation. 2. The Immigration Work Permit Board's granting of work permits for the last 8 years, in particular, those related to HSBC and the writs. 3. The leakage of cabinet decisions to political parties and groups that was used to attack civil servants and private citizens. 4. The leakage of ongoing police investigations to political and private citizens. 5. Ezra Miller's writs work permit email and corruption while sitting as chairman of the Work Permit Board. 6. Administration approval of work permits, that is, work permits approved without the board knowledge and our involvement. 7. The status of the past minister's electrical account as it relates to payment during the CUC license negotiations and who made payments to it. The objective here is to prove a conflict that should cause the CUC license to be renegotiated. 8. The tempura investigation released to the public. 9. All corruption allegation cases currently with the Anti-Corruption Commission. If cases exist that were purposely ignored or in any way omitted or delayed without a justifiable reason, then charges must also be brought against the members of that commission. 10. The ERA 2011 audit, the Auditor General's Office involvement, the Acting MD's involvement, and the board's knowledge and involvement. As a result of the current arrangement and structure of our judiciary, the National Security Committee, and the persons involved, I do not believe that true independent investigations will occur unless independent investigators are brought in. The investigations must be transparent by allowing members of the media to be included on the team, included as part of the investigative team leadership, and these independent investigations must be initiated from the floor of Parliament. While many of us suspect or even have knowledge that there is widespread corruption, we are afraid of the results. I am not. Not only must we allow these to occur, but once completed, charges must be made, and once we have the results of the hearings in court, we must then proceed with the lawsuits on behalf of the Caymanian people against every private firm involved. Corruption leads to poverty, and the corrupt elite must pay for their involvement. This is not a political promise. This is a Caymanian right. I am still not afraid. Home, you turn on your air conditioning, you turn on the stove, you begin to use again, and the peak goes back up. Then you go to bed at 10, 11 o'clock. So 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, around there, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's very little electricity being used. The time of use billing changes that I'm proposing is that that's when people can get a lower rate. So at 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you can set your washer and dryer, do your laundry. The hotels can bring in staff to do it then. Fosters can do some of their work then. And they're operating at a lower rate, which is going to allow them to pass on better prices to us. So Fosters, for example, and the other supermarkets can park their shelves, have people operating those hours. They're operating, still using electricity, but they're using at a lower rate, which allows them to pass on some savings to us as well, and certainly to the hotels. So that's time of use. That can be implemented very quickly. And, you know, it's simple things like this that will allow us to drastically reduce our cost of living. So we have the 15% of peak that is allowed for renewable supply. Put it up to 50% and allow more people access to it. Let Foster's and A.L. Thompson and the supermarkets have 50% of their supply on renewables, on solar, and let them reduce the cost to us. CUC will still make money. They'll still have 50% of the load. And here is why this is a national issue, folks. I want to pause a minute to explain this to you. Pardon me. If we look at the Shedder Hospital, and this is really where I got this idea from, because in reviewing that and the applications brought before my desk, I found out that for the Shedder Hospital to be built at 100%, there is no way they could afford the light bill. So they came before me and they said, we have a problem at the cost of electricity, at the cost of fuel. If we bill 100% of this hospital, we won't be able to pay the light bill. It is just far too much. We would have to increase our rates so high, we may not be able to be successful. So here's a project that may not have moved forward if we didn't address that. So what I propose and what I'm still proposing is that the Shedder Hospital be allowed to power 50% of their demand through renewables, any renewable source that is safe and that can be approved. That allows them, and then CUC will provide backup to that and charge a special rate that would be approved by the government and through the ERA. So that allows the Shedder Hospital to become a project to completion, creating jobs and operating at a profit. We have a call. Let's go straight to the phone lines. Call is gone. So once we do it for the Shedder Hospital, why not do it for Foster's? Why not do it for the other grocery stores and call us back? Hello? Hello, caller, you're on there.
Hey, thank you, Joey. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you for your call.
Yeah, this is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to let your listening audience know that in regards to your political meeting on Wednesday night, a group of us came together, okay, and decided to provide public transportation. That is for anyone who might be interested in attending your meeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Now, this transportation will be leaving from the Cotton Club location.
Okay.
Which is off Old Crew Road, that is behind Jake Scott's.
Right.
Yeah, at 6:45 p.m. sharp.
Okay.
And for those who would like to travel with us, we are kindly asking you to be at least half an hour before a scheduled departure.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, you're most welcome. Also, I'm calling on all your supporters from all over the island to come out and show their support.
Thank you.
Most of all, Northsiders, the ball is in your hands.
Yes, it is.
Trust me, you all know what to do on May 22nd, and that's Northsiders I'm talking about.
Okay. Right? Thank you very much,
Patrick. I want to say thanks, Joey, for giving me the opportunity to hear this important information.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you for your support. Thank all of you for your support.
Welcome. And may God continue to inspire and bless you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you, friend. Okay.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, folks, that's for my meeting tomorrow night. It's at 7:30 at Owamambe Playfield, and these are small business owners getting together. I know Patrick is a small business owner, and they're getting behind me and throwing support behind me. And I want to thank them very much because times are hard right now, and for them to voluntarily do this without me asking. It shows a level of commitment and support, and that we're pulling together to pull this country back, and we're going to have, and this CUC reduction cost that I'm talking about here is part of that. It impacts directly those small business owners and gives them a chance for profitability. And I want to thank them. Thank you very, very much for doing this for me. I want to invite everyone to come out. I know there are other political meetings going on as well. We're getting very close, and people and residents in other districts want to hear their candidates too. But I do ask if you please come out also and hear my proposals for national issues, but as well as the model and plans for Northside and how we're going to move forward. And to the Northside people, I ask that you join me tomorrow. Please join me tomorrow at 7:30 at the Old Man Bay Playfield, and let me present the Northside and what I plan to do once you elect me. And again, ask for your support. Beg you for your vote, and ask you to give me an opportunity to do what I can. I know I can do, not just for Northside, but for the country and the whole. And again, I can't say enough how much I appreciate the support of Patrick and the other small businesses that have jumped in behind me based on what I've been saying. And, one of the reasons I think that drew them to me and they're supportive is because of the amount of corruption that negatively impacts them. Lost opportunities on bids. They know they put good bids forward, and they never be able to seem to be able to get forward, get the next level up. And that has to stop. It has to stop. It's hurting good, hard-working Caymanians, and those things have to end. And people in this country know that these things happen. We all know. There's nothing I've said is true. I've just named some people that you all suspected. So it has to come to an end. Again, I am not just about that. I'm about a lot of other things that I want to present. The reduction of CUC costs, transferring this company into the hands of its Caymanian employees is also one. And folks, don't be afraid of this, because this is a good thing. I am telling you, folks, that I am not saying that any staff member of CUC is bad. Okay? I am saying that I want the ownership and the wealth from this company to go into the pockets and the bank accounts of the Caymanian employees there rather than leaving the island. That's all I'm saying here, I'm not saying I'm going in there with a hammer to destroy anything. I want to see the hard-working Caymanians in there come out at the end of the day with ownership. This has been done around the world. This is not new. I'm not proposing anything new. What I'm saying is, I know where I can break this contract. I know that the opportunity is presented here. I know we can make this happen, and we need to do so. We need to at least take it through the courts to get the courts to make a decision, because, folks, we cannot continue to develop and recover our economy if we do not fix the cost. The cost is too high. And too many people have been enslaved by these costs. And I use the word enslaved because there are too many single moms that I've talked to, too many men heading up families, too many families in general, too many small businesses that are literally working to make sure the light bill is staying on. Let me tell you about one of the conversations I had with senior citizens while I was the managing director of the ERA. I had some senior citizens call me, and this lady said, Mr. Ebanks, I have a choice at the end of each month. I can buy my medicine or I can pay my light bill, but I can't do both. Now, folks, here is why I became so committed to reducing the cost, because hearing these stories from these senior citizens is reason for us to understand that this is a national issue. This is a threat to our way of life. We have senior citizens who have illnesses, who are not as healthy as they were. We all know that. But some of these health issues require, if they're to survive, require them to have air conditioning on. So they have to keep at a certain temperature, or their health condition gets worse. They have to be made comfortable. They don't have a choice, as to burning that air conditioning. Now, we can do things like, and part of the other program and plans is green loans, which will allow us to purchase very efficient air conditioning, put in insulation, do some of that work to make it efficient. And you all know in this country that I champion energy efficiency in this country for the last 20 years. I've been out to the town halls. I've fought. All of my time at CUC was constantly looking for ways to help the consumer reduce their costs. So my track record on that stands, just as it stands for many people knowing that while I was there as the manager of CUC, Customer Service Department, I didn't just come out and arbitrarily cut people off. If I could help you, I would help you. And I didn't question it at all. And I did what I could. I made sure the shareholder was okay. I made sure the company and the employees were okay. And I made sure the consumer had something was okay and could have a payment plan or whatever was necessary to live. But we can't deal with it that way anymore. We need to tackle the cost now and bring it down. So when these senior citizens are there and they have these choices, we have a problem. You know, speaking of senior citizens, I had part of the discussion. This is the only way I can debate Arden Ezra, by the way. I have to listen to this show in the morning and then debate them in the evening because they won't get in the same room with me. But there was a caller about the seamen, and I sat and I listened to everyone beat around, talking about, what kind of policy was in place and what's there and what's that. Let me tell you something. This country began with nothing. And then we began to make rope. I'm going to go to the rope making days and building ships. And we became pretty good at it. We made the catboat. We made the catboat because we were turtling and fishing. And the catboat is designed the way it is to be able to go forward and backward very quickly. And so from rope making, we boat building, we became big turtlers. And we became the best turtlers that there were. Rope making, shipbuilding, and turtling created the best seamen in the world. Our seamen would leave here. There was no TV. Our seamen would leave here, go overseas for a job at the age of 16, 17, 18, young men, young boys, and stay for a year and work and send money home. They helped to build this banking industry. They helped to develop this country. We should be ashamed of ourselves today to be negotiating with them about health insurance. They're entitled to it. They're entitled to it because they helped build the country. And if it would be a shame for us to turn our backs on them now. Now that they're in their senior years and needing health insurance, needing health care, we have to make sure that's there. That's all this is. That's the end of the argument. Seamen should not have to be begging for health insurance coverage, as the rest of us should be happy to make sure it's in place. They gave us this great country. Now, for us to turn our backs on them, we should be ashamed of ourselves. And I'm not prepared to do that. There's no other discussion to have. They're entitled to it. They worked hard and they deserved it. And they exposed themselves to a great deal of health risks in helping to build this country. So let's not let these very proud men and key people within our society have to go this route. Just like our women helped build the banking industry. It was the women who went in, worked with the imported, mostly Canadian men, and building these banks and banking and infrastructure here in Cayman. And they are experts in banking now. Many of them are reaching retirement age. But they are the experts in banking, not the ones that are being brought in. We already developed them. These are the women who should now be transitioning to teaching and training and developing bankers and young women and young men into the banking industry, not being put out to pasture. So, folks, we need to rethink the way we look at our country. We need to rethink the way we approach policy. And we need to get things in place and policies in place that allows the Caymanian people a better quality of life. And I'm going to say better quality of life and use Chris's term there, but what we really need to do before we can get to that is we need to be prepared to deal with corruption. We cannot allow family ties, jobs, and business opportunities to get in the way of ending that. That must stop, or we're all going to perish. Because quite frankly, when you and I protect that, we're protecting, you know what we're really trying to protect? Some crumbs. There's much more here for you that you can get and live a better life. I'm tired of having people talk about their electricity's cut off, they can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their phone bill, when other people have such an abundance and they're taking it off the table. And they're not doing it in an ethical and legal way either. So we need to take that on, we need to end it, and we need to create opportunities for Caymanians. I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I'm going to be here for a short while. I also have some friends coming on. I think, to do an interview. I'll have to confirm that. But I'm back here tomorrow at 5, back on for an hour, and then I head up to Old Man Bay for my meeting at 7:30. I do ask that you please come out. Please come out and take a listen and what I'm presenting. At all of my meetings, I have a floating mic that people can ask questions. The first meeting we had in Frankstown was fantastic. We had some people in the audience, a young lady in particular in the audience, and a young guy from Northside asked some really tough questions of me as it related to my presentation, and I enjoyed it. I hope more people will come out and ask the questions. More importantly, remember the Patrick called. There is a bus leaving from the Cotton Club. That's just by Jake Scott there on Crew Road. So the Cotton Club, there's some buses there. Those guys are getting together, moving people and offering transportation. If you think that it's too far to drive, they have a bus that'll give you a ride and bring you back. They're asking you to be there. They're going to leave at 6:45, so be there by 6:15 so they can load the buses and head out. And this is Caymanian grassroots people getting together. And this is a grassroots movement, because I'm a grassroots man. And we're moving together, because even with the stuff I propose for Northside and the national proposal I have, it affects everyone positively. And I'm going to work hard once elected. So I'm asking you again to please reach out to the Northside people you know. Reach out to your friends and family in Northside if you know them, by text, by BBM. Young people, get behind this movement. Let's get this thing going. You know we've come a long way already. You know they wrote me off. You know they planned on writing me off permanently. And I'm still here. I'm still not afraid, and the governor's going. So you know what I'm saying is we're beginning to win. We're beginning to win, and we're really close now. And let's just finish this journey. Help me, help you. Help me, help you to a better way of life, because I'm not afraid of anyone. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you here tomorrow night. Bye.
I'm not afraid. Yeah.